see how you do under pressure. Yeah, I've been wanting this forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay. Hey. Yeah. Ain't no errors, baby, it's a new era. I wake up early, feeling rich like I'm Kesha. I get to the paper, boy. Extra, extra. Work with me, you.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome in to another episode podcast to talk about our favorite team, the Arizona Cardinals. Huge shout out to the people that are currently in the chat. We got Lennon, we got Brandon, we got Ishan, we got Joey. What's up, y'all? Appreciate you guys for being here. Do me a huge favor, smack up the like button here on your way in. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the midway point of the training camp for the 2025 Arizona Cardinals, and we got a lot to talk about. I'm going to be joined in here by my good buddy Donnie from Sports Illustrated. Let's go and bring him in here. Donnie, how you doing, man?
Living the life. We're about halfway through training camp, like you said, and football's back, man. Like Arizona Cardinals will, we've got the first preseason game tomorrow on Thursday. Cardinals will be in action next week, and we're rocking and rolling.
I'm telling you, man, it's such an exciting time. It's like you'd feel like even with my intro, I just had goosebumps. I was like, it's back. I'm just not going to talk about meaningless crap anymore. Like, we're talking about football now. So this is exciting. I appreciate you for joining on up and foremost. I know I had you probably a couple of weeks back, and I absolutely appreciate our conversations back and forth because I do learn, man. I learn a lot. I know you're on the inside, boots on the ground. So I did miss this week with pads on for, the Cardinals. So I got a lot of questions to ask you, and hopefully you can go ahead and educate a lot of people here that are watching this back on a replay. But let's jump right into it, man. Let's talk about the 2025 Arizona Cardinals training camp. Overall, what are your assessments of, obviously you've been doing this for a very long time, but from 2023 to 2024, now we're sitting in 2025. What are you seeing differently, right, from this Arizona Cardinals in 2025?
Yeah, I think the expectation dial has been turned up a little bit by the team itself. You hear so much about them not wanting to be listening to like outside expectations or the outside noise or anything. I think internally there's expectations for them to be a good to possibly great team in 2025. I do think they want to make the playoffs, obviously, but the differences between 2023 and 2024 is that there's a legitimate reason why they could make it, why they could win the division, why they could make the postseason. It's going to be such a fun, interesting year because it feels like for the first time in years, there's actual expectations of, hey, like this team's good enough to do something. Let's go do something now. So far, that's kind of been the case in camp. I think the defense has looked every bit as good as people has wanted them to be, even without names like Walter Nolan, Bilal Nichols, obviously starting Thomas went down with the ACL injury. The offense has been hit or miss. It just kind of depends on the day. They're still kind of trying to figure things out, ran it back with the same group that they did last year. I think a little bit of that is a byproduct of them going against just an immensely talented defense. And a little bit of them just, they haven't played football together in 7 months. So
Right.
That timing, that rhythm definitely matters a little bit more on the offensive side of the ball. But so far, so good. Like there's still very much the promise of them looking like a good football team, like we had hoped and seen in OTAs and minicamp and stuff. But the proof is going to be in the pudding here in a little bit whenever we get deeper into padded training camp practices and the preseason games start rolling around.
Perfect. Okay. Well, let's go and just jump right into here. This next conversation I want to talk about. And you did mention it with the whole Starling Thomas. And right now I'm living in a Matrix world because I see a double of myself, but let me fix that here in my end. So Starling Thomas, right? Starling Thomas the fifth goes out with a torn ACL. Very, very unfortunate. What do you see, or what have you seen so far in training camp in terms of the guy that's taking that most amount of snaps to kind of, be that, I'm not saying Starling Thomas, but like that role that he was going to fill? Because we heard Jonathan Gannon come out and said that he was going to make this team. Like, it's obvious, right? So who's that guy that you think is going to make that, and who's also the guy that's taking that majority of reps?
Yeah, so not only was he going to make the team, he was going to be a week one starter. Yeah. I do think he was going to be a week one starter on the boundary opposite of maybe like a guy like Max Belton or Will Johnson, just kind of depending on who would have won that CB2 battle with Garrett Williams in the slot. I think we've seen, it's so funny because like they drafted Will Johnson. You look at the room, it's like, okay, this is deep. Like they have Sean Murphy Bunting, they have Will Johnson, Max Melton, Starling Thomas. Like, that's a pretty deep, like top four rotation they can have if they want. So it went from that to now it's kind of being like top heavy a little bit. with Murphy Bunting gone, with starting Thomas gone. Those are two starters that they effectively lost. I think more than anything, that's kind of like thwarted Will Johnson into, hey, like, we're not going to try to bring him along like steadily. Like if we think he's ready to play, now we kind of need him to play. It's not hey, like, Starling Thomas is just better. Sean Murphy Bunting's a veteran. It's kind of like ease Will Johnson into the conversation. Now it's going to be, hey, like you were supposed to be a first round pick. You slipped and fell. The knee looks okay. Let's go out and show everybody why you should have been the first round pick. So if we're looking at beneficiaries for the Starling Thomas injury, I think Johnson and Max Belton are kind of like cemented as the starting two corners now. The Cardinals love Keitrell Clark.
Yeah.
They really, really like him and what they can do. Denzel Burke, though. Denzel Burke has been getting, some work with like that second unit. And that's not super popular for like a 5th round pick to get a second team work in training camp his rookie year, but he played a lot of meaningful snaps at Ohio State. He's a veteran guy. I remember him being talked about as a potential 1st round pick earlier in his collegiate career. Elijah Jones is another name to mention. So there's a handful of guys that can step up, but if we're evaluating things up until this point, Max Belton and Will Johnson are going to be the outside starters with Garrett Williams and nickel. And then if I had to pick somebody right now as kind of that third rotational guy, it's probably going to be Denzel Burke.
Really? Wow.
I think so. I think I think him and Keitrell are neck and neck. I think Denzel is going to be the better corner whenever the dust settles at the end of preseason.
So I see my guy here, studio here in the chat talking about Elijah Jones, right? A 3rd round pick last year, and unfortunately spent most of the year on IR last year. What have you seen from him? Or is he just not rolling with the 2s as much? Is he rolling more with 3s, or like what is? Any updates on Elijah Jones?
So Jones is getting some work with the 2s for sure. It's just that for Elijah, I feel like he's a little bit behind the 8 ball just because he did spend a lot of last year hurt, and it's so tough to kind of come back and work your way back from like such a significant injury like that. On top of all of the other names they added to the room, and like that's not an indictment on him as a player, but just more so where he's currently at and like the process after having to hit that reset button with the injury. He's certainly got like an uphill battle to climb. I don't think he's played terrible or bad at all, but like he's not getting a ton of like top tier looks in terms of the depth chart and the pecking order. A lot of those snaps are being rotated between Melton, Johnson, Clark, and Burke.
Yeah, we did hear Jonathan Gannon come out and state that he is done for the season, right? Starling Thomas the 5th. Jaden Davis, which is a guy that was I believe another late round pick a few years back. Yeah, he's probably not somebody that we're even talking about, right? Like if we're going to be
no. So Gannon said he has an opportunity to come back. I think Gannon said he had a knee injury. But like, and this is no disrespect to Jaden Davis, but like he wasn't going to crack the starting lineup.
Yeah, I figured, man. All right, cool. Let's move on over to the next guy. Obviously, 16th overall pick this year for the Cardinals, Walter Nolan. It almost kind of feels like once we heard that information in terms of like, okay, we're going to put him on the PUP list, it almost feels like there's not really been much of an update. Have you heard anything on like what the extent of the injury is, and like, do we got to be worried about maybe another, Darius Robinson 2.0, maybe not to the end of the season type of thing, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, we haven't really heard much. The Cardinals do such a great job of keeping things inside. Like they really don't let a whole lot of stuff leak. The extent of my knowledge is that it's a calf injury, and it's so funny because calf injuries can mean a whole lot of things.
Right.
So some people believe it might be like an Achilles injury. Some people might think it just might be like a calf tear or something like that. The only thing we really know is he was hurt training at the facility. And he's expected to miss majority of training camp, if not all of it, and like preseason. So, he's been with the team every day. He seems upbeat and, kind of just trying to soak everything in with meetings and stuff. I don't think it's going to be another Darius Robinson thing.
Okay.
It doesn't seem that significant, at least from the outside. So if he misses maybe like week 1 of the regular season, I wouldn't be super surprised. But like every little indication that we can possibly get right now doesn't seem to suggest that it's going to be something serious.
Okay. I mean, that's good. I mean, I think a lot of people have that feeling of, oh man, Darius Robinson, this whole situation because yeah, we haven't seen Darius Robinson, well, the thing that happened, right? His injury, the re-aggravation, and then the unfortunate passing of his mother, it all
Yeah.
just seemed like a big chunk of this regular season kind of went, and then he was like, what was it, like 5 or 6 games of
Six
the
games
last
or something like
6 games,
that.
something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, and it just seemed like we had a really good sample size, and of course, you all those people saying, "Oh, bust." I'm like, I don't. Some people are so quick to calling people bust, and that's nothing. I think we've seen a lot of good things of Darius Robinson, in training camp. Like, what have you seen so far of Darius Robinson? Now, obviously, you can't really see statistics for defensive linemen. You're not going to touch the quarterback. You're not going to finish
Yeah.
your plays. But overall, what have you seen from Darius Robinson going into year two?
Yeah, I think I remember last year watching Darius Robinson just mow people down on the offensive line and show that raw strength and power. And I think we're seeing the same thing this training camp. Like obviously, like everybody knows that viral picture of him just looking like the Terminator next to Jonathan Gannon.
Yeah.
He still looks very much like the player they drafted. That's somebody who is versatile, can play 3 tech, can play 5 tech. He's somebody who's very quick off the ball, just has so much raw power and strength and the ability to move people back on the offensive line. He looks great.
Yeah.
Like Darius Robinson legitimately looks very, very good. That's excited because if he can stay healthy, Jonathan Gannon called it year like 1.5 for him just because he missed so much of last year.
Yeah.
So like he's effectively like playing the tail end of his rookie season in 2025 here, but
Right.
he looks great. Like you said, there's no stats to measure it. There's no really like metrics to quantify it, but like just like the eye test and watching him in like team like 11 on 11 activities, like against the Cardinals starting offensive line, like he's winning a lot of reps. He's winning a lot of one-on-ones. He's creating chaos in the backfield. And he very much does look like the guy everybody wants him to be so far.
You know who I really like? Now, obviously, I could only get the sample size of when I was over there, but Dante Stills, man. I think last week, I feel like there's been several. Now, he's running with the twos, if I can remember correctly, but like
Yeah.
he just looks so. Like, I feel like any chance he get to disrupt the play, he's out there, man. Well, what have we seen for Dante Stills here in this week when the pads were on? Anything kind of similar? Like, obviously, like we said before, you can't measure.
Similar.
Yeah, is similar to him too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely, man. Dante Stills is an extremely underrated player whenever it comes to the Cardinals defensive line room. And, he gets lost in the shuffle sometimes with some of the new additions, both last year and this offseason, but he produces. And I think that's one of my favorite things about him is that, like, you can pretty much put him anywhere and he'll find a way to make an impact. And I think that's very much been the case this training camp. And he has gotten some run with the ones, but I think, like you alluded to, it's mostly kind of been with that second team unit. But I do want to point out that the Cardinals, especially with their front seven, they rotate guys so much that like everybody is going to play significant snaps. That's how they do things. That's how they rotate guys to keep them fresh. So like even if like a defensive lineman like Dante Stills is just like getting to work right now with the second stringers, he's still going to play like a decent amount of snaps whenever it comes to the regular season. So I think that's just a testament to the depth that they've built and just the overall quantity and quality of talent from top to bottom in that room. But Dante Stills looks very, very good.
Okay. Well, that's good. I mean, obviously, I think he was one of our best defensive linemen last year, and I'm glad it's translating. I know when I was there in training camp, he's looked really, really good, but that was without the pads on. But I'm excited about this defense just in general. Let's kind of talk about, not just specific players, but as a whole. Do you agree with, I guess the not narrative, but like the point that maybe the defense has looked better in this week when the pads have been on compared to
Oh,
the
for sure.
offense, right?
Yeah, and I think that's more of an indictment, in my opinion, on just the defense
Yeah.
looking like everybody wants it to be, as opposed to the offense being lackluster. I don't think that's the case. But the first day of pads, I remember just being on the sideline and being like, "Oh my god, like this defense is for real!" Like
Yeah.
that defensive line was wrecking everything
Yeah.
the offense tried to do. First team, second team, it didn't matter. Run, pass, whatever the offense tried to do, like. And that's such a good feeling for like a Cardinals fan. And like I know that kind of seems like counterintuitive because like the offense isn't able to do anything, but like when you're able to control the line of scrimmage on defense, that opens up so much for you. Like you really are able to dictate the game like that. And like I just feel like the offense is only going to get better practicing against those guys every day and kind of the whole like iron sharpens iron thing. So like whenever they do come across like a tough defense on a Sunday, they go against a pretty tough defense 5 days days a week before that. So they're not going to be the adjustment level from like good to great, like defensively, going from their own unit to like whatever unit they might be playing on a weekly basis, isn't going to be crazy enough to where they're going to be shocked or surprised or they won't be able to do anything.
And that's very fascinating that you mentioned that, because I know sometimes I felt like in 2024 that like when they were going against a top tier defense or a defense that was causing penetration up the middle or just penetration just in general, rattling Kyler Murray, they look like a different offense, almost like they were unprepared to go against a defense like this because they didn't have that in practice. But now that they add Josh Sweat, now that they added, I'm not gonna say Walter Nolan, but I still add him on there. But Darius Robinson going to his year 2, right? And all these guys, Calais Campbell, right? Dalvin Tomlinson, like now they can actually get a taste of what that looks like. So like I'm actually really excited about, what that can translate here into the regular season. But we've seen Kyler Murray. Now, I'm going to come out here and say this because everybody always attacks me if I don't put this disclaimer out. I don't care that Kyler Murray throws interceptions. I know he did or is it 3 interceptions in 2 days, but honestly, I would rather him do this now and get this out, not so much out of the system, but get prepared for the chemistry down to go into the regular season, as opposed to the regular season when the games really, really matter. So I said this in, last week, just toss it up. Because at one point in the beginning of the
Yeah.
season, I almost felt like it was just nickel dime, like just small, small, small. But like at the end, I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to see the chunk plays. That's what we want to see, the chemistry down. So what are your overall thoughts on Kyler Murray's play?
Yeah, I think the offense slowly but surely kind of opened itself up to
Yeah.
begin training camp. It felt like the first couple of days of camp, it was just very base. Hey, it's just quick, easy stuff. Let's not try to get too chaotic here. And the more they kind of found the rhythm, the more time on task they had, the more things seemed really to open up downfield. Started seeing Marvin Harrison Jr. make plays, starting to see like Trey McBride make plays. And I'm sure we'll talk about Marvin in a second, but like he looks so good.
Right.
I really like the point you brought up about the interceptions in training camp. Like, first of all, like there wasn't even an interception thrown by any Cardinals quarterback for the first 3 days. Like
Right.
that wasn't a thing. But the pads came on, like they started to try to turn it loose a little bit. And like with that, like, yeah, you're going to have mistakes, but I think people need to contextualize things. Training camp is a time where you try to see what throws you can and can't make. Like how are you going to know, like, you can't fit a ball into this window in a regular season game if you're not trying that process out now in training camp? And like, we don't know if Kyler was just directed, hey, like the defense, if they give you this look, target this player no matter what. We want to see what that looks like. We want to see what he can do. We want to see if you can make this throw. It's all just kind of figuring out what they can and can't do. And so like, there's really no good reason to buy into training camp stock unless like every other pass is picked off and it's just for dumb decisions. And that's just not the case with Kyler Murray or the Cardinals offense.
No, that's a fair point to make as well. Like, I said this also as well. Like, if it's like one of those things where we're dealing with every single day 3 interceptions, then I think we worry. Then I think we panic. But if it's one of those things where it's like we're trying different things, we're trying those chunk plays, those balls going deep, and you got to get that chemistry down at the end of the day. So, okay, perfect. No, I agree with you there. Let me ask you something. I know Kyler Murray, when he had a presser a couple days back, if not yesterday, he was asked, I forgot what the question was directly, but it had to do when he said like that Marvin and him are quiet, and he says, "Oh, I'm not that quiet. You guys don't really know me very much." But it was that question that he was talking about, and he was elaborating on things that he should be doing this or that I was boring.
Yeah.
Was he talking about like taking just the checkdowns when they are there and don't force things, and that's what he's going to try to work on this year? That's how I interpret it, right?
Pretty much, yeah. So
Okay.
obviously the big thing with Kyler Murray here in Arizona is consistency.
Right.
I think Kyler's got to be one of the more polarizing people I've seen in sports, and very much Arizona sports. I think he's probably the number one guy. People either love him or hate him.
Yeah.
I think one thing you can't argue is the talent. Like
Yeah.
the top level talent that he possesses is incredible. But the biggest question mark around him, especially heading into 2025, is consistency. Can you consistently do it at a high level? Every quarterback has bad games. It is
Yeah.
what it is. Nobody's perfect. But the guys, the elite players, are able to bounce back quicker and not let the lows be so low as what it is with Kyler Murray. And so the question he was asked was, hey, consistency is a big thing. Like, what are you trying to do? Like, what's the thing with consistency? What do you think you need to be better at to be more consistent? And he basically said, look, like, being consistent is boring, but like in the good way. Like being
Right.
consistent is throwing that 5-yard out route 8 times out of 10, because like it's not sexy, it's not making any highlights, but like it moves the chains, it gets you yards, it keeps you ahead of the sticks. Basically, like it being great and being consistent is so monotonous, it's so boring, but it leads to results. And I think him not forcing anything and him just taking what the defense gives him, especially with a great running game, especially with a great defense, I think he's walking into 2025 knowing that he doesn't have to be Superman, that he doesn't have to put a cape on and throw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns every week. He just needs to manage the offense with that high athletic upside that he has and just take what the defense gives him. And I really think that's like sunk into him this offseason with all the other additions. So I think that's been a big thing for him. And that was basically the answer that he gave us was, I'm not going to put up these crazy numbers every week, but like I need to take what the defense gives me because ultimately like I want to win, and that's going to lead to wins.
No, 100%. And kudos to the coaching staff for, getting it, because it's year 7, right? Was what we're talking about. Kyler Murray going to his year 7. So like, I'm glad that it's now starting to kind of click, because I mean, there has been some plays that we've seen back in 2024 where sometimes did feel like a force, right? Sometimes felt like down the field where like it was a dagger to the heart. Oh, this game is over. Like in that Panthers
8
game,
picks
right?
in the last 7 games, man. Yep.
It's just, you can't do things like that. So I'm glad that it's now starting to kind of click that, hey, because you got those reliable weapons. Like you're going to have your Trey McBride. You're going to have your, Marvin Harrison Jr. taking that next step. I'm excited to see that level of the offense, just because I know it's not sexy, man, but like you just got to move the chains. Like I feel like a lot of times the playbook hasn't been opened up because there was a lot of 3 and outs for this offense to get off the field. But James Conner, Trey Benson going into his year 2, I'm excited about that as well. So I hope his offense can get it clicking, but we'll have to kind of wait and see. Let me ask you about this. I don't really see very much about Michael Wilson. What the heck is going on in training camp with Michael Wilson? I went, I believe it was Thursday or Friday of last week, and I was like, oh, here's the one catch I see. This is great. Good job, Michael Wilson. But it's crickets. What's going on with the second wide receiver?
Yeah, I honestly, man, like it's just a byproduct of like he doesn't get his number called a lot. Like he's not playing bad by any stretch of the imagination. No, he's just like he plays in a run first offense. And so with that, like he's already not going to get a bunch of targets and a bunch of opportunities. Trey McBride is the number one passing target, at least right now. Marvin Harrison Jr., it looks like he's going to have the sophomore season of a lifetime. And so like he's effectively like the third passing option in an offense that prefers to run the ball. And so like he's not going to get a lot of looks. He's not going to get a lot of targets. But I will say, like, when they've thrown him the ball, when his number's been called, like, he gets open and he catches the ball, which is the 2 prerequisites for being a receiver in Jonathan Gannon's football team. Like, he hasn't had to do anything spectacular, anything crazy. Like, he's playing fine. Like, he's doing what Michael Wilson is supposed to do, and I think he's controlling what he can control. He just hasn't had a lot of opportunity, and I think a lot of that is kind of stemming from, like, the Marvin Harrison Jr. takeover in training camp.
Do you think that it's a big focus for this offense to get as many reps to Marvin Harrison Jr. as possible? Because I know that Mac Wilson Sr. interception that happened, when you're looking back, it almost kind of seems like the ball's trying to go over to Marvin. And I believe when, who was that last one? Max Melton, I think, interception. That play was going to Trey McBride, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Do you feel like that's the big emphasis in this training camp, as like, okay, these are your number 1, 2 options? Because I mean, although I can agree that it's very beneficial to have that, I feel like we gotta at least get them involved some way or another, because there is going to be some defenses that are going to be able to take those guys away, especially if the run doesn't work. Like Michael Wilson can be a real good weapon for this team. Like I'm a little worried that chemistry is getting tarnished. Are you a little worried or not?
I wouldn't say worried. I do want to highlight, I think the amount of Marvin Harrison Jr. targets we've seen this year has been more so a product of, hey, we want him to be a focal point of the offense. I do think that the Kyler and Marv connection does need to continue improving. It's not perfect quite yet. And with that, like, there's going to be a lot of reps. There's going to be a lot of targets. I think more than anything, Marv is kind of asserting himself as like another like safety blanket for Kyler. So like if his like first or second read isn't there for whatever reason, like he knows he can go to Marv, kind of the same reason, in the same way with like Trey McBride. But like that being said, I just think like a lot of the Marv involvement is more so just, hey, like we didn't do a good job of getting him the ball last year, at least like early and often. he needs to be a focal point. Like the number 4 overall pick needs to be a big part of the
Right.
offense. And I think maybe like just an unfortunate byproduct of that is like Michael Wilson isn't going to be featured as much, at least early on. But I agree. Like I'm a big Mike Wilson fan.
Me
Like I
too.
think he's a phenomenal contested catch guy. He's a big body, reliable receiver. He's not slow by like at any means. It looks like he got a little bit quicker over the offseason. So I think he's solid. I think he's great. I think he deserves more touches and more targets. But that's the thing when playing in an offense with so many of these guys, you only have one football.
Yeah, true. I'm just convert those third downs and we get more plays, right? The end of the day. Let's talk about real quick about Xavier Weaver, right? I think there's another question mark out there with the wide receiver number 3. Seems like it might be Zay Jones / Greg Dortch as that number 3 guy. Is that changed, or is Xavier Weaver kind of got the edge up right now? Like, what's happening with Xavier Weaver, which I'm a big fan of, but I just don't feel like he's taking that extra step right now to solidify that number 3. What say you though?
Yeah, Weaver's kind of not like a cult hero around here, but like people love him, man. People love him. Like Colorado people love him. Like they thought he should have been drafted. And like I do want to say like last year during training camp, like he played well enough to earn a 53-man roster spot, and like that's extremely hard to do as an undrafted guy. So the coaching staff obviously loves him. But I think his work more so is going to come on like special teams. I do think he might get an opportunity here or there, but they really didn't change much about their personnel on offense. And I just don't think magically that Xavier Weaver, for all of the potential that he may have, I don't think it's going to be good enough to like earn wide receiver 3 duties.
Yeah.
I think maybe he'll kind of like ascend as like a sub backup kind of guy. Okay. If we're trying to project into the year, but I don't think he's going to get significant playing time. I don't think he's going to start as wide receiver 3 on this team. I think that's a battle pretty much between Zay Jones and Greg Dortch. But it's funny you bring that up because whenever we do ask about how that battle is going, Xavier Weaver is brought up. Like unprompted. We're like, hey, because a lot of us think, Greg Dortch, Zay Jones, and we've asked multiple people and they said, yeah, like Dortch, Jones, Xavier Weaver. And it's like, hey, maybe preseason action, like Xavier Weaver's going to get a lot of run and we'll kind of see from there. But wide receiver 3 right now, if you're projecting it, for me, it's Zay Jones.
Zay Jones. I mean, I wouldn't mind that. I mean, I like Greg Dortch. I really do. I think he plays bigger than his size. I think he's a fantastic player. It's just, I don't know. I want to see what a over 6 foot guy up the middle can do. And I feel like that would work wonders for Kyler Murray. But obviously, I still want to see Greg Dortch in this offense. I think he's still a really, really good player. Let me ask you this real quick. Preseason's coming around the corner, man. Football, it's almost here. Preseason's around the corner. I know we were asked, or you guys asked Jonathan Gannon. Of course, John, he does not tell you guys. He's not going to tell you guys. But what say you? Do you think that they should play preseason?
I do. I think the lack of reps last year kind of contributed not to like the slow start, because I don't think they like started off like slow, but like I keep thinking back to every time we ask how they can improve and how they can do like different things, it's always reps.
Yeah,
it's always reps, and you hear so often there's no substitute for game reps, but that doesn't follow when you don't play your starters in preseason.
Yeah.
And you don't need to play them the entire game. There's 3 weeks. You can spread the snaps out. And you hear so much about how they don't play in fear of injuries. They don't let the possibility of injury prevent them from doing X or doing Y or doing Z. But then it comes to preseason and they're not playing their guys to keep them fresh and for them to not be injured. It's like, well, you can't want them to get reps in live action against other teams in a non-controlled setting, and then also like keep them in bubble wrap. That's just not how things work in the National Football League. So I do think they should play. I don't think they should play the entire game. They're not going to play the entire game if they do play. I just like a couple of drives here and there. Just like let them like get the rust off a little bit before you throw them to the wolves like they did against Buffalo last year.
And that's one of the things too. I remember like when we were talking about like just the start of the Arizona Cardinals 2024 season and how that was always kind of something that, either a comment or a fan had to say, why don't we do that? Why don't we do this? Especially because the struggle of Kyler Murray and the inconsistencies of what's going on. I agree with you. I think that they should put him out there. Obviously not the whole game. That's preseason. It's a meaningless game, but the benefits to going against a different cornerback that's not, Garrett Williams. It's not,
Yep.
Max Melton. It's so much benefits to uh, Marvin Harrison Jr. was going to his year too. Like there's just so many things that he can learn from that. So I think there's a lot of benefits for it. I hope that they do. Even if it's a drive or two. Game one, game two, maybe obviously not game three, but let's see what happens. I really hope that happens. Let me ask you one last question. Actually, two more. I got somebody in the chat here saying anything about Elijah Simmons, which I think I'm a big fan. He's kind of with there with me with Xavier Weaver. I love talking about Elijah Simmons. I'm not sure if it's because JJ Watt ended up bringing him up to light, but what are your thoughts on Simmons?
No, he's looked good, and that's another undrafted free agent, kind of similar to Weaver last year, to where like he might be able to make the team, especially with the injuries along the defensive line, and kind of just depending on like who's going to be available week one whenever they have to make their like final roster cuts. So I think he's looked good. He hasn't gotten too much run with like the second or like third team, just because it's a very deep room. But with like one-on-one drills, like he's looked pretty good. Like he's not like this like crazy world beater like diamond in the rough, but like he's a damn good football player,
Yeah.
man. And like I think he's good. He's gonna make the Cardinals coaching staff have some really tough decisions to make, especially if he can keep balling out in preseason. So he's not doing anything crazy. He hasn't looked bad. He hasn't looked like super great. But like you did hear a lot of hype about him. And I think for what it's worth, like he's looked like a good football player so far. It just hasn't gotten a ton of opportunities against like the Cardinals top talent.
Perfect. Okay, let me ask you this last thing. Surprise standouts. I ended up asking you this a little earlier. Who was your surprise standouts that you've seen in training camp? They were like, oh, snap. Okay, let's get this going. Who are those guys for you?
Yeah, so I chose two, one for each side of the ball. For me, it's kind of hard for the offensive side of the ball, just because they didn't really change anything from last year. It's kind of the same group of guys, but like Isaiah Adams, man, like stepping in for that right guard spot. I beat the Will Hernandez drum so much this offseason. Like, hey, as soon as he's healthy, you go and sign him. Like, if you want to put together your best starting five, that includes Will Hernandez at right guard. I think the Cardinals are really confident in Isaiah Adams. I really do. I think they believe in him as a starter. He took over. He rotated with Tristan Colon last year after Will Hernandez went down in week 5 with that torn ACL. Ended up pretty much solidifying that starting spot towards the end of the year. And I think they're big fans of, what he did over the offseason, him kind of like building off of that experience. So far, so good. I mean, I talk so much about Darius Robinson being this like people mover. He had 2 reps against Darius Robinson in one-on-one drills yesterday. He looked pretty good. Like he looked solid. And I think as an offensive lineman, if you're not having your name called and you're not being highlighted, that's a good thing, because you're kind of just doing your job and staying out the way. And I think that's been the case with Isaiah Adams so far. And, flipping it over to the defensive side of the ball, been a lot of talk about the edge rushers that Arizona has added, and, what those guys could look like at outside linebacker. Granted, it's been against quote unquote like lesser competition, but Xavier Thomas has been able to get after the quarterback pretty frequently in training camp. I feel like he's won a lot of the one-on-ones that he's had whenever they do those drills too. So nothing crazy, nothing flashy. I was big on the Xavier Thomas hype train last year. He had a really good training camp, a really good preseason. He's kind of just parlaying that into 2025. And I think at worst, if you need a rotational guy to step into that role as a pass rusher on third down, I think he's kind of building that case to be exactly that.
Yeah, so right now, we know that Bijou Jalari is also on the PUP list as well. Any updates on that, or it's kind of the same thing with Walter Nolan? Not really much provided.
Not really much. They're quiet about that, man. Yeah, and I remember. I remember being at OTAs a few months ago, just being like, all right, he tore his knee up really bad, and like it was like a training camp practice. Like the average recovery time is usually like 9 to 10 months. So like right now is pretty much a time where like they should be like ramping him up. Yeah. I don't know if he'll be able to play in any preseason games. I don't know if they want to rush him back, especially after seeing what happened to Darius Robinson last year, especially with such a knee injury, because I heard he really tore that knee up. I heard it was bad. So we'll see what happens with him, but there's been little to no update on BJ and when he might be able to come back.
Well, right now, it's obviously Josh Sweat has been looked really good. I think Josh Sweat's been pretty fantastic, and I think we heard Jonathan Gannon come out and say he got close to the quarterback a couple times. The other side of Josh Sweat, and he's such a good person. Like, he's such a funny personality, man. I ended up catching his presser. He's a He's a funny dude, man.
He's funny, man. He's a good dude.
Yeah, he seems like an overall chill, humble, like down to earth type of guy. I love his like little small jokes in here and there, but the opposite side of him, it's Baron Browning. Is what it seems like right now. Is that seems to be that number 2 guy?
I think they're figuring it out. If you're
Yeah.
asking me to throw a dart right now, labeling a starter, I think it's Zaven Collins.
Mm,
But I think on obvious pass rushing downs, they would rotate Baron Browning into that spot until
okay.
one of them can kind of prove they're absolutely better than the other. Um, They love Zaven.
Yeah.
They love Zaven Collins. He's big. He's athletic. He's incredibly good against the run. He does so many things well. He's just not that refined pass rusher. I don't know if you or anybody in the chat saw, but like they experimented with him playing snaps at like inside linebacker a couple practices ago. So
Yeah, I saw that.
we asked JG about that, and he just said he's going to play outside linebacker, and they'll use his versatility pretty much whenever they need it. Whatever that means. What was the kind of crazy stuff that Nick Rallis has up his sleeve? But
Yeah.
um, I do think Zaven kind of has the edge in terms of like
Okay.
being like that starting every down outside linebacker. But like we talked about a little bit earlier, like they're going to rotate their guys a lot. Baron Browning is going to get, I think, more of the like obvious pass rush down looks just in terms of getting after the quarterback, because I do think he's better than Zaven Collins in that regard. But I think opposite of Sweat, it's going to be a committee. It's going to be a committee
Yeah.
until somebody can really grab that by the horns.
I mean, this is such a massive year for PJ Ojolari. I am glad they are using the precautions and trying to kind of make sure he's fully ready to go. And I'm hoping it's the regular season because I had so much high hopes as a second round pick for PJ Ojolari. I'm hoping he's able to stay healthy.
He looked good before the injury, man. He looked really good.
That would be nasty, man. Just Josh Sweat and PJ Ojolari. Ugh, sounds like a dream. That sounds amazing. All right, man. Let's close up shop right here. Let everybody know where they can find you, Donnie. I appreciate you for jumping on here. But what are you doing here in 2025, and where people can find you and what you're doing in your content?
Yeah, you can follow my work at sled.com/NFL/Cardinals. You can follow me on Twitter at Donnie Druin. And just living the dream, man. Covering football. This is my 5th training camp being out there, and it's really, really cool. I'm very lucky to be able to do what I do and to come on shows like this. So love the community you guys have. I tell you every time, I love hopping on here and talking ball with you guys. So it's cool, man. Really
Appreciate
cool.
it, man. Thank you so very much. Yeah, we will have my guy Donnie here a lot more during the regular season, hopefully, and then hopefully preseason to kind of get your take of it all, because it's good sometimes to talk to other people as opposed to just talking to a solo camera as a solo guy. So appreciate you, Donnie, man. Thank you so very much. We will have the Arizona Cardinals Sports Illustrated or SI specifically in the description. If you want to go and check them out, you can definitely go and check it out on the description of the video. So appreciate y'all. Have a great rest of your day, and as always, go Cardinals.